So I'm going to talk a little bit about conversational agents. And then I'm going to talk about a game, serious game we've built with these agents called Operation Aries. And this is a game that is commercialized by Pearson Education starting this year. And for every game that's sold, $1 goes to the University of Memphis and is distributed in various sensible ways. So you'll hear about that, and that's the second thing. So if any of you want to learn more about what I do, you can read this article in American Psychologists that gives a summary of the sort of work where you can learn how agents help you learn and have discourse in a more intelligent way, and also attracts both your cognition and your emotions. And that's one theme here. We think emotions are intimately related to deep learning. So cognition and emotion dance together whenever you do deep learning. So I don't do research alone. In fact, I don't think I have a single project I do alone. I do it with a group of people. And these are the group of people in the Learning, Language, and Discourse Sciences in the Institute for Intelligent Systems that are involved in all sorts of projects. And how many of you know where the FedEx Institute of Technology is? Raise your hand. Okay, that's right by the psychology building. It's good that they're close to each other because psychology is its major contributor. And so what these people do, and these are just the professors, this isn't even the students. So we have about 100 people over there building these systems that I'm going to talk to you about. So the goal of these agent-based systems is to design dialogues, trialogues, quadrilogues, ensembles of agents that help students learn. And these agents need to be sensitive to what I call SCAM. That's social, cognitive, affective, and motivational mechanisms. So you can remember it. It's got a nice acronym called SCAM. And so just like people, you want these agents to be psychologically grounded. So this was the first system we built. It was called AutoTutor, and it was on the topic of computer literacy, and this was started to be built back in 1997. And so it's about 15 years that we've been doing this. It has a talking head, and with some expressions, and the sort of questions and the dialogue were all organized around deep questions. Deep questions require about a paragraph of an explanation. We're not interested in the multiple choice or the single fill-in-the-word sort of tests. We're interested in conversation and where the agent and the human co-construct an explanation. Okay? That's the sort. It may take, to answer this one question, and you don't need to know the question, it's a deep question about how, how does the operating system interact with the word processing program when you create a document? I mean, it takes maybe 7 or 10 sentences to answer that right, and so you have to have a conversation. It may take 100 turns back and forth, agent, tutor, agent, tutor, agent, tutor, 100 turns to answer this one question. And that's just the way it goes in normal tutoring. It's very conversational. And right now it's believed nationally that the deepest of knowledge, you need conversation and interaction with an intelligent system to learn. Shallow knowledge, you don't need these agents. It's the deep knowledge, complex systems, complicated explanation. For those, normally you need to interact with an intelligent systems before you acquire that knowledge. So, what does AutoTutor do? Well, this is what it does. It asks questions and presents problems. It evaluates the meaning of the learner's answers. Think of that. It has to understand what the student says. It gives feedback on answers. It displays facial expressions with emotions. It nods and gestures. It hints, and this is hard, how to give a good hint to help students learn at a deeper level. That's a hard thing to do. It prompts students for specific information. It adds information that is missed. It corrects bugs and misconceptions. It answers some categories of questions. It can't answer all questions because students often ask very difficult questions. It guides the learner in interactive 3D simulation. Well, it does a lot. Now, the initial AutoTutor really started a growth of many systems in the Institute for Intelligent Systems and Psychology. And these are my colleagues who took the lead in building these other systems. You have Sheng-Yen Hu's AutoTutor Lite that can auto-tutorize any material. You have the iStart system that helps students read at deeper levels, because a lot of students read very shallowly. This system has ensembles of agents on how to get them to read deeper. You have Writing Pal, where you help students write. You were talking about the difficulty of writing. Now you can just use Writing Pal. But in fact, your writing was good. You were much too humble. You actually did much better than you expressed. But in any event, we also have iDrive. I don't know if Scotty's out there somewhere, but that's teaching students how to ask good, deep questions. Imagine two agents, where a student agent is very curious and asks good questions, and then the tutor agent answers it. Imagine a lot of good questions and answers, like 30 per hour. After a while, a student learns how to ask good questions much better. Because normally you don't see a lot of good, deep curiosity in this classroom. The typical classroom, there's only one question per student per 6 hours. So you don't see a lot of good inquisitiveness and curiosity in a classroom. So they have to be taught. You have this robot called the Philip K. Dick Android by Andrew Olney that won a major competition in robotics, first prize in fact, for 2005 in the open competition in the entire United States. It was a Philip K. robot, fully embodied robot. Imagine that. It's kind of creepy. It had a face and everything. Philip K. Dick actually was an author for Total Recall and other science fiction films. And so it would converse with you about Philip K. Dick and his writings. And so there's the HURA advisor. That is on research ethics. We have IMAP. We have MetaTutor. MetaTutor by Roger Azevedo teaches students how to learn, how to be a self-regulated learner, which is hard. And then currently Guru is teaching people in middle school biology, and Deep Tutor by Vasily Rus is teaching students physics. It's hard to get enough physics teachers. And in the city of Memphis, there's 3,700 teachers, 0 were trained in physics. So you need tutors in order to help students learn. So let me show you one of the first robots that Andrew Olney built. And this illustrates how this physics tutor works. Oops, sorry, that didn't work. Let's see. Hold on.
An airplane flying horizontally drops a packet on a pre-selected spot when it is right above the target. Does the packet hit the target? Explain.
The packet will hit the target because it'll fall straight down.
Good job. What else can you say?
When gravity acts on the packet, it'll cause it to fall straight down.
Good. What can you say about the packet's velocity at the point of release?
The horizontal velocity of the packet is the same as the plane before its release and after its release.
Good. Try this. The velocities of the objects before and just after the packet's release off. Great. We're almost there. Let's try to tie up a few details. Note that the velocity of the packet is the same as that of the plane at the time of release. Let's try this together. In which direction is the velocity of the packet at the point of release?
The only force acting on the packet is the force of gravity, and at the point of release, the packet has the same horizontal velocity as the plane. So I guess it won't hit the target, it'll go past the target.
Okay, try this. Immediately after its release, the packet has the same horizontal velocity as
Constant.
no.
So
No,
you-
that velocity
So you
of
can see how that goes. And that's the natural conversation. And so you can really develop a conversation, whether it's speech recognition or typed input, we've compared the two, and it goes along pretty naturally, and it tries to understand and track how much they're covering the right answer and tries to correct the misconceptions, and that's pretty reasonable. So, question, does it help you learn? I mean, you know, conversations are supposed to be good in tutoring. Does it help learning? Well, we ran a 4-condition study where one condition we had human tutors, okay, with PhDs and a lot of pedagogical knowledge. We had auto-tutor versus reading a textbook for an equivalent amount of time versus doing nothing. So question, so we're going to race between these 4 conditions, random assignment and everything like that. Question, how many of you think that the human tutor produces the best learning? Raise your hand, okay? How many vote for auto-tutor for the best learner? Okay, collect your $20 on the way out. Okay. How many vote reading the text book? Okay. You're all old enough to vote. How many vote do nothing? Okay, actually a couple. Well, here's the data. And we were happy to see that auto-tutor was about, not statistically different than a human tutor in producing learning. But there's another piece of information up here that fascinated us. And that is, look at the textbook. That's no different than doing nothing. So when you give them a test of physics, this is the force concept inventory, if you assign a student to just read a textbook, they're getting shallow knowledge, but they're not getting any deep knowledge of it. They aren't. And this is not only true for this, but it's also true, we tried it in computer literacy, we've tried it in critical thinking. Just reading without any interactivity, you're not getting the deeper knowledge. And we're not the only ones who have shown this. But that's typically what teachers do. They ask them to read a textbook and they give them a lecture. And that's how they think they're supposed to get deep learning. No, you need interactivity, whether it's interactive simulation, whether it's conversation, chat groups, whether it's being tutored. You need that to get to the deeper levels of learning. So, as I mentioned before, we also look at emotions. Emotions are very, very important during learning. And we've documented the various emotions moment by moment by moment during the learning process. And we've even automated the the emotion detection. With the computer, looking at your face, and the computer tracks your posture, that's right, how you sit, and also your speech and the dialogue history. Between all of these, we can detect your emotion about as good as an expert judge, and better than a novice judge. And so this just illustrates how much emotion goes on when people are learning. This is a student right before taking an LSAT. She wants to get her that test for entrance into the schools, law schools. So this is what she's going through during this time. And there's no sound here. So she's reading along, this is a camera, and now she's confused. Okay? Okay? Yeah. Okay. And her eyebrows are going up and going up, and then you'll see another emotion coming up here again soon. Frustration and anxiety. And notice it looks like she's smiling in some of these. When people are frustrated, they have this little smiley spot. Yeah. And so, and it goes on. And what's noticeable is in a small stretch of time of a minute or two, there is a lot of different emotions going on. During the difficult learning, the emotions are dancing with the material just as much as the cognitions. But guess what? Until this last few years, psychologists have known nothing about this process. Absolutely nothing. The people who study emotions keep studying the same boring big 6 emotions of Ekman, which has nothing to do with learning. Now, these are the emotions that you've got to worry about during learning. You've got to worry about boredom, confusion, delight, flow, frustration, and surprise. And those are the percentages. And we've studied this in about 10 different learning environments and problem-solving environments. And these are the approximate percentages. Now, interestingly, the best predictor of emotions, what do you think it is? What do you think the best, just shout it out, what do you think is the best predictor of learning? Which of these emotions? How many said confusion? You're right. Confusion is when your eyes, they have a noticeable change, and you're thinking. And that's when deep learning is occurring. And so we really like to monitor confusion because we want to see how you can use that confusion for deeper learning. And of course, if you're bored, you got to give them a greater challenge or give them some razzle-dazzle. So, let me turn to another part where emotion plays a role, and that's serious games. We are building serious games because we think we need to fold in learning deep, difficult material into games because students play games hours. People spend a lot more in K-12 playing games than they do studying and doing homework. We know that. So the question is whether you can smuggle in deeper learning and materials, more serious content in there, even though students are very skeptical about this. If they are playing a game and it looks like you're teaching something, they get very skeptical. So you got to be very crafty on how to smuggle in the deep learning. And so we're doing this project with Wisconsin and Maryland and data collected in Massachusetts. And for a multi-party serious game on urban planning. So if you were to plan Memphis and where to put parks, where to put supermarkets, where to put things, it's a game to help you learn this. And let me give you an example of how this works. Hold on. One took a while. It just takes a little while. Well, maybe we won't hear about it. Oh, here it is.
Land science is a computer game which lets students play the role of interns at Urban Design Associates, an urban and regional planning firm in their state. The work begins when players get an email from Kurt, the lead planner of the firm and a fictional character in the game, who sends them a request for proposals from the mayor of the city.
To get started on our proposals, we conduct a virtual site visit where we learn about the history of the neighborhood and the issues that one group of stakeholders in the city care about.
Right now I'm checking how open spaces, parking garages, parking spaces are affecting the city.
Players use iPlan, a mapping tool that lets them change the zoning of the different parcels on a site. As they make changes, graphs show the projected impact on issues that stakeholders care about. Players team up to determine what the stakeholders will find acceptable. Then they regroup to develop a final plan for the site.
In the preference survey, we just had to please one stakeholder group. For our final plan and proposal, we need to create a plan that pleases all the stakeholder groups.
After creating their plan, players write a formal proposal that justifies their planning choices.
I am changing State Street to have more houses so that more people can shop there or attract more people to shop.
Along the way, players can communicate with live mentors using a built-in chat tool. Mentors model how professional planners work, help the players when they get stuck, and push players to reflect on their work. Land science has been played by students from ages 10 to 18, including gifted and talented and special needs students, as well as ESL students in the US and in Europe.
I just didn't realize how much they would personally take on these characters and seriously think through big ideas. And I think, again, kids who are 9 and 10 years old are ready for it, and I think we underestimate their problem solving and critical thinking skills.
I just kind of think about like what you could do, like how to solve a problem. It's fun.
So one thing I should say is when students play alone, they don't learn much about urban science. They need a mentor to get them going in the right way. So what we're doing is we're trying to replace the human mentor with an automated mentor. And we think that will allow more students to learn with it, because mentors are hard to get. Human mentors are hard to get, but also it might even be better than human mentors. Okay, let me skip over that one. Let me skip now to Operation Aries. This is a game environment to help students learn about critical thinking and science. And people who were involved building it are Keith Millis, who got his degree here. He's now at Northern Illinois University. And Diane Halpern, who's a previous president of the American Psychological Association. And she knows a lot about critical thinking. And then myself and a colleague, Ziheng Kai, we call him Carl. Okay, so it's going to be funded by, not only funded, it's going to be commercialized by Pearson Education, and here, these are some of the other collaborators on the project. So, what is at stake here? We need to know, for states in the United States and countries in the world, how good people are at critical thinking and science. We find most people in the public cannot really evaluate science when they read newspapers, when they watch television. They don't know what science is all about and how to critically think about it. So this game is going to try to help them how to critically think about the scientific method. And it's got a theme of these aliens coming down on Earth, trying to take over our Earth by planting bad science. And if you can identify these alien creatures that are propagating this, then you will learn how to save the world. That's basically it. So we find in the news media that there's a lot of bad science going on. Like here's one, study finds wine lowers heart attack risk in women. And it's claiming that's a causal statement. But you read the research and it's only a correlational design. That happens again and again and again and again all the time, and we gotta train the public on how to discriminate those sort of statements. So we have scientific reasoning, an electronic textbook, periodic questions and answers. We get students to critique experiments, and students love to criticize. They just love that. So if you can get them to criticizing using scientific foundations, then you're mixing fun and education. We have a game context with aliens, and then trialogues, and the trialogues are going to be a big thing. So these are the core, we have 21 core principles of science. It's kind of like instead of the 10 commandments, you have the 21 scientific commandments. These things like correlation does not mean causation, and you have to have a control group. Things like that. There's 21 of them, and over anywhere from 4 to 20 hours of serious game playing, it tracks these 21 principles. And it's got an epic story. So you've got to have surprises and romance and mysteries and suspense and uncertainty. It has that narrative throughout this game. And it's hard, you've got to understand, it's hard to coordinate learning principles with games. You know, Hollywood and Disneyland haven't solved it. Most of their games are pretty frivolous. So how to marry deep learning and fun games is hard. And this was our attempt to do it.
Deep within the Federal Bureau of Science is a secret so powerful that few know of its existence. Disguised aliens from another planet are covertly destroying our scientific ability. This is the story behind Operation Aries. Operation Aries is a computerized educational game that teaches core aspects of research methods to high school and college students. Players first take a science course with a virtual student and teacher.
Today's chapter is on independent variables.
They read an online science book that was written by the aliens. Learning is reinforced by tutorial conversations among the player, teacher, and fellow student.
Okay, last and why don't we get back to the training course?
The book emphasizes over 20 core concepts common to the physical and social sciences. After reading the book, players critically evaluate flawed research published by the aliens. Players are aided by the teacher. During this time, new clues emerge, revealing the aliens' ultimate plans. Finally, players practice posing questions to captured scientists and evaluating their answers. If correct, players identify alien spots and help save the world from ruin. Operation Aries brings together several principles of learning and engagement, intelligent tutoring programming, and video game attributes.
So, let it be said that every step of the game design was motivated by psychological principles. Every step. So unlike a lot of games where people in computer science or art just free associate what they do, this is different. This is a science-based construction of these games. And so we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to go through the details, but I do want to mention, because we have limited time and we've got to go to the other sessions, what I do want to do, though, is mention that it does help learning. When we tested this out in California at 3 universities, we had Claremont McKenna College, which is a private elite university, and then there's Cal Poly Pomona, which is a state university, kind of like University of Memphis, and then we had Crafton Hills College, and that would be like Southwest. And in each of them, we've tested it out to see with a pre-test and post-test, and we find for all of those schools, you do get learning. We've tried testing out the very first component and tracked each individual concept, these 21 core concepts, and we find that learning takes place with the interactive text on all of them, but we could probably, some are harder to promote learning than others. So, once again, this is our challenge. Our challenge is, how do we design dialogues, trialogues, quadrilogues, groups of agents that help students learn and are sensitive to SCAM. That's social, cognitive, affective, and motivational mechanisms. And this is really a unique point in history. I mean, for the first time, you can design these agent environments to create all sorts of social environments and all sorts of materials. It's hard to train teachers to systematically do things in a very scripted way or adaptive way. But now, for the very first time in history, we can get computer environments to do that. And I feel really lucky I get to be at this point in history where I can be part of this revolution in learning environments. So, thank you.